everyone, and welcome to the chat. I'm Catalina Allurs. We have Henny, Angelia, and Joey. You know what I'm going to say. That dash of testosterone at the table today.
I try.
All right, we're all excited to be here, nice and calm, getting ready for possibly what's going on. But like Tim Deegan said earlier today, just keep an eye on First Coast News, keep an eye on what Lenny Curry's saying. Nobody freak out. Just
We're
be
all
calm
gonna
about
be
it. We're
okay.
all going to be okay. All right, well, let's get started today with new details on a messy Hollywood marriage. Sharon Osbourne is opening up about the affairs she said her husband Ozzy had that almost led to their divorce. The talk co-host told The Telegraph that, quote, there wasn't just one woman, there were 6 of them. She went on to describe how she had found out about the ongoing affair with one of those women, a hairdresser. She said, quote, when I found out about the hairdresser, I couldn't believe it because none of these women were show ponies. He was doing it to fill the void in some way. So what do you ladies think about and Joey, think about the new details that she's sharing about, you know, her decision to stay with them even after he cheated on her with at least 6 women. It's
only 6 that she know of.
Exactly.
There's so many more. I mean, they've been married for a very long time. But you know, to each his own. First of all, let me say that to each his own. Everybody go through what they go through, and they choose to handle it in a certain way. I personally, as you guys know, I have never been married, not yet, but I just I don't understand the decision-making process that a woman or a man goes through when they know, in this situation, 6 women. She know of 6. What is the process in her brain for her to say, I'm going to stay put, I'm not going anywhere? And I know your vows say for better or worse and all that stuff. I believe in that.
And for her, this is like decades of cheating, because when he was on tour with Black Sabbath, like he cheated a lot. Like a song that he wrote called "Mama, I'm Coming Home," that was about Sharon Osbourne and all the messing up that he had done.
Well, see, and that's my. Yeah, such a
like, how is she not
say I'm done?
Well, I was gonna say Sharon Osbourne has been very vocal about the long-standing infidelity from Ozzy, but for me personally, I think his long-standing infidelity almost proves that statement that once a cheater, always a cheater.
Oh, of course.
And kind of like you said, Henny, about the vows, I don't, and we kind of talked about it before the show, I don't have the mental space to know that you have cheated on me and for me to even give you the potential to work through it. Because in my opinion, every good relationship is built on trust. And at that point, I don't know how I can ever trust you again. Because every time you say you've got to go get milk, I'm questioning where you're going. Every time I see you texting in the corner, I question where you're going. And that, what you said in this interview with People Magazine, or the article for People Magazine, is how she found out about one of them because he sent her an email. She goes, why are you emailing me? Because they were on 2 separate couches. And she said he freaked out and that the email was meant for the other lady. But if you look at the list of who she said, like, a masseuse in America, a masseuse in England, their own personal chef. So he is, I think, kind of filling this like weird void.
No, that's not.
Not that I'm defending him. Let it be known the man's a cheater.
Right. No, but think about
I don't want to say this pun intended, but it's whatever's easy. And that happens to be in the house. That's the person doing your hair. That's the one that's cooking for you. That's the one that is easy.
Because they feel
but
like
there has to be
an obligation.
But
what I'm
the thing
thinking is there has to be something.
There's like a double standard with men, though, versus women. And it was interesting hearing your take on it because I think that all men are like that. They say, you know what? If the woman cheats on me, it's over.
Yep.
No looking back. Next.
They do.
That's what I did with my marriage because that's what happened with mine. So exactly the same way I think the same. I don't think I can ever get past that. But there's a lot of women that can get past it with a husband that's willing to be an open book. And honestly, it's more socially acceptable, I feel like, for women to be able to be on that side, to be cheated on, and to stay in the relationship.
I don't get is
it's okay. And the wealthier the man is typically, the more it's okay.
Well, I was going to say, what I don't understand is
so
I know of somebody that cheated and they had young children and it was a one-time thing and they chose to work through it.
For the family.
For the family.
Yeah.
But what I don't really get is that Sharon Osbourne is very independent. She's very outspoken, and it's not like she loses anything from leaving him. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And same thing. Listen, I'm a big Beyonce fan, but the fact that Beyonce stayed with Jay-Z, I'm like, you don't lose.
Well, that's never been proven that he's cheated. So we ain't
allegedly. No, I'm saying like I don't get like why, as Sharon Osbourne, who's very like girl power, I'm my own woman,
and she can make her own money and everything.
But knowing that he cheated more than once and she continues to stay, that I don't comprehend.
I mean, at the end of the day, the only one who knows what's really going on in their marriage is
them.
So let's just hope that it's actually like good and a healthy marriage now.
No judgment. It's their marriage.
It's their marriage, absolutely. So we're going to move on now. Did you hear that there's a new dating app that is taking kind of a different approach to helping people find their new boo? Now, the app doesn't want people to make snap decisions based on someone's picture. So the app is called Taffy, and when you're browsing through people's profiles, you could only see their name, age, and the headline. You cannot see their picture, get this, until after you have sent them about 10 messages back and forth. The goal, they say, of course, is to make it so people's personalities are worth as much as how they look. The question is, what makes this one so different, and will this one work?
Who is their demo?
Yeah,
No,
that's a-
like, who are you making?
That's a good
No,
question.
because us young children are not going to use this.
Yes, y'all will.
No, we will.
Yes,
We'll use it
yes,
for
they
a
will.
week to try it out. Absolutely not.
But
Tinder
what
and
millennials
Bumble,
is going to use it? There are so many
Tinder,
vain young people.
because we
that-
are vain. We're based off of looks,
But
and
here's
that's
my,
okay.
but here's my
that's
question.
okay.
So you message 10 times, and then the person's like, ooh.
Right? It's
Just
more
kidding.
rude to
So
say.
then how does it not like hurt you
know
even
what's
more that
more
after
rude?
10 times
Yeah.
you're like, oh, I'm so unattractive, they don't want to continue communicating?
I can
Yeah.
totally see the 10-time thing. Hey, what's up? What's up?
Okay, okay,
Simple
I'll give you
things
that.
just to get the 10 out the way to see what the profile
Or
looks like,
you
and
could
then
do
they're
less
out.
work
But
and
here's
just go
my
to
question.
Tinder or Bumble.
I think it depends personally how much looks matter to you. Like I know people, don't tweet me, I don't care, that are not the most attractive, but their personalities make them attractive. Does that make sense?
Of course.
And then I
Yeah.
know people that are gorgeous, and I'm like, you are dumb as a box of rocks, and you have
So
no
do I.
personality.
But I
so
think-
I think this is actually a good idea. But I'm interested, like Catalina said, who is going to use this the
Oh,
most?
you're
You're going to use it for like a
I
week to see how
think-
long, and then
But
that's
I
it.
think you hit the nail on the head. With the younger generation, I think they will not use this. I think the older generation will appreciate this.
Do you think that's because when you're older, you don't care about looks as much?
No, because
That
the
ain't true,
old,
'cause I'm
no,
old and
no,
I
no,
care
no,
about
no.
looks.
The
You are
reason
not
that, the reason that this guy started this was for two reasons. The first reason is because he was talking about something called groupthink. And we as people, we are so worried about what other people think and perception that we
Yep.
always go outside of our barriers and outside of our box and try to, I don't know, marry up, buy a house up, buy a car that's more expensive than we can afford. So it's all about perception. So we take that into consideration. Everyone does that. But then there's the older generation that actually wants to have the people talk to one another. They don't
true.
base it as much on looks anymore. So that's why this guy did this, is because only 5% of like Tinder and all of those things actually end in a relationship.
But you know what I'm interested
He
to see?
wanted people
Yeah.
communicating again, because back in the day, he appreciated AOL. AOL, remember? I don't know if you guys
AIM.
remember that,
AOL
but dial-up
instant
we were the AIM
messaging.
generation.
Yes.
But
Mom picking up
AOL
the phone and kicking us
chat-
off the internet.
But do you remember the AOL chat
Yeah.
box that you could actually chat, and
Yeah.
you could join a group, and everybody kind of sat back to see if they wanted to join, and then you listened, and then you started talking, and then you chat outside of the box, and you began relationships. That's why he did this.
Well, so
To
far,
start
it's not working.
talking again.
I went to the,
I
went to
agree.
the
Oh my
app to
God.
download it and try it out. At least like look to see what the interface looked like. You can't even load it yet, so I can.
Oh my God.
He must have. The
They've
thought
only
is okay.
worked on it 10 months, so I think
Well,
that's
that was a
kinda,
mistake.
that might be it.
Because
They've
it's already
only worked
got
on it 10
9
months.
one-star reviews because people
Oh
can't
my
even
God.
get it to load.
Oh my God. Well,
I cannot wait for the day
for the
when
older
dating
generation,
apps
maybe.
just go away.
They're not going away.
oh, they're not
Come
going
on, they're
anywhere.
not going
Never
anywhere.
say never,
evolve,
honey.
You gotta go live
evolve.
on a rock in the
You
middle of
never say
nowhere.
All right, well, let's move on to something interesting. Here's some interesting news when it comes to starting a family. Yeah, more dads are just waiting a little bit longer to have kids. Stanford University researchers say the average dad's age at the time of a child's birth is now just over 30 years old. That's 3.5 years older than in the way back 1970s. And the youngest dad, oh, I don't want to say this, but the youngest dad was actually recorded as 11 years old. And the oldest, yeah, I know everyone in the house is going, whoa, yeah, 11 years old. And the oldest was 88. So we could say whoa to that too.
that
So
is
why do you
real
think these
old.
dads are actually waiting? And do you think that there's less of a fuss over older dads versus older mothers? Well, I mean, really, I think there is a definite fuss over that. I think older mothers have a double standard, and older fathers,
They're
they
just
don't.
foxes.
I mean,
They're
what do you
just
think,
silver
Joey? Your
foxes.
generation. What do you think?
88?
Yeah,
11.
that's weird.
I
You know
mean,
what?
You know, when I
dang.
first heard about this story and knew that we were going to talk about it, the first one I thought about, oddly enough, was George Clooney, because he's maybe over
He's over
55, somewhere there.
yeah.
And he just had twins. But I do think it's a double standard because older dads are seen as attractive, but older mothers are like, you're 50.
And people are
you had
more
a kid.
worried.
You know what I'm saying? It's
They're getting
weird.
criticized for
Yeah.
like the health reasons. Like, how dare you put your baby in, in harm's way? Like, who knows?
But
Yeah, exactly.
studies show that older dads with younger kids face things like neurological diseases, pediatric cancer, autism. So there's also health risk if you're an older dad. My theory is this, is I think a bunch of older men are having midlife crises, dating these 30-year-old girls that are like, yeah, you're 60, but I still want a kid.
Ozzy
and that's why,
Osbourne
exactly.
You know, it's funny
That's
about
why they're
saying that.
becoming older dads.
You know, it's really funny about you saying that. My dad was one of those guys going after 30-year-old men. 30-year-old women, because this is my family to a T. My mom is my dad's second wife, so he already had 3 children by the time my parents met. My mom had me at 39. My dad was 51 when I was born. And so to me, the only downside to having older parents, because it was so different having parents that were the same age as my friends' grandparents.
Ooh,
so it played a huge part in the way that I was raised. I have like a little bit of, you know, old-fashioned views and morals and all that stuff. But the only downside is that I did lose my dad when he was 72 and I was 20. So there's that sense, and like you're gonna lose there's a possibility you could lose your parents a little
Well, here's a
sooner
question for
than
you then,
the
Catalina.
average person does.
As this article talks about, older parents usually are more established and, how do I say this politely, create more geekier kids because they are able to provide them more resources. Do you think you had more resources than the average kid because your parents were older?
I don't think so, but my dad was retired military by the time I was born, but he was still working, and I mean, I don't know, for me there's no correlation in that way. I was just a nerdy kid just because I was. there's no difference. But no, to me, the age doesn't mean anything. And there's no rush. For me, there's no rush to have kids. There's no rush to get married because everyone's timeline is different. So if you're going to be George Clooney having kids when you're almost 60, do it.
I don't mind the older generation having kids. I really don't, men or women, because you're more established. You're ready to do it. You've experienced so much in life, and hopefully your bank account is a lot better to provide for these children, because these days children are so much more expensive than when we were growing up. We needed, you know, a key around our neck. We needed a bike to play out in the lawn, and we needed Kool-Aid, and that was it. But your generation, I mean, your kids are going to need everything. I mean, chef lessons, you know, ballet, you need so many different things, a computer, an iPad, a phone. These are expensive things. So I think you need to be older to be able to afford this generation's children.
Yeah, sorry, not sorry. We're a little more high maintenance than everyone else.
Yes, you are.
All right, well, coming up next, he's responsible for making the beats for one of country music's hottest stars. We chat with the drummer and band leader for Thomas Rhett when we come back.